This is the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Hey, welcome to Marriage Unhindered. I am Doug Hinderer, your host. If you aren't married to a selfish person, what can you do about it? And so there's some practical things. One, recognizing and addressing selfish behaviors is really critical for your own mental and emotional well-being, for sure. Okay, so here's a few strategies. One is, I think first thing is to appreciate that there are many reasons why people behave selfishly. Perhaps they weren't shown love or care by parents or caregivers, right? Perhaps they've got attachment disorders from childhood. Perhaps they just grew up in a house with selfish parents and they're modeling that behavior. This is how, my dad or my mother did it, so that's how I do it. There could be insecurity, where, boy, I just can't trust anybody to do anything but myself because no one is as competent as I am. Or the superiority complex. I'm the smartest one in the room, therefore you all just need to kind of fall in line behind me. Then there's the scarcity mindset. Well, there's not enough to go around, so I better get mine first. We run into that a lot if we go to eat at a buffet. I got to load up my plate before they run out of food. Or there could be a personality disorder, a narcissist or bipolar or something going on too. You don't really know often why a person is selfish. The good news is you don't really need to know either. You don't need to be a psychologist to diagnose your spouse to figure out how to handle someone who's pretty selfish. So that's the first thing. Appreciate the fact there's a lot of different reasons going on. Number two, develop empathy, right? Work on understanding your spouse's perspectives and emotional experiences. And this can help the selfish part become a little bit more attuned to your needs as well. So look and communicate empathetically, right? So you can ask questions like, okay, help me understand, okay? And then focus on the behavior. So help me understand why you think it's okay, help me understand why you walk in the room, take the remote, and change the channel when I'm sitting here in the middle of a show. Help me understand that. I really need to understand, why you, didn't pay attention to me, right? And along with the empathy, develop some patience because change takes time, and it takes a while for selfish people to realize that their behavior is harming you and harming themselves and the marriage as well. So you get to the heart of the matter here. You've got to be able to communicate with your spouse about the selfish behavior and how destructive it is. You need to be able to talk about your needs, expectations, and feelings, right? And oftentimes the selfish person may not be fully aware of how their actions are hurting you or hurting the relationship. A lot of times they just kind of live in a bubble, they just don't get it. And by opening their eyes to how they are harming you, hurting the marriage, sometimes that's all it takes, and they can start moving in the right direction, all right? So if you decide you want to talk to your spouse about their selfish behavior, the first question you need to answer is, why do I care, right? That may seem like a stupid question, and the answer seems obvious, but working to put words to your feelings will be really helpful if you decide to express those. So why do you care that you're sitting there watching a show and your spouse comes in and changes the channel? Why do you care about that? Well, think about it. Pray about it. Put it in writing so then it's easier to communicate, okay? Talk about this a lot, but then use I statements to express how specific actions impacted you, right? So I feel, and I talk about the formula, I feel when you, and I'd like to ask you to please. So, for example, instead of saying, hey, you're always selfish, that's going to result in defensiveness. Try saying, I feel unappreciated when my needs aren't considered in our decisions. Okay, so I feel unimportant when you decide where we're going on vacation this year. And make the reservations before I even know what it is we're doing. Focus on the experience rather than making accusations, okay? Making accusations, placing labels, calling names will result in defensiveness. So focus on the behavior, not the label you want to put on it, right? And do not attempt to do some sort of diagnosis like, I know why you do what you do. You are this way, or you've got mama wounds, or whatever. You were dropped on your head as an infant. Don't worry about the diagnosis. Talk about the behavior. Be prepared to listen to your partner's perspective. listen for understanding, ask sincere follow-up questions. Ask open-ended questions that will prompt your spouse to be a little more introspective. Encourage your spouse to think about their behavior and its consequences. Bring it to their attention in the context of the specific situation. And I can't overemphasize that enough. So often, when couples get into arguments, they get off topic. And they bring in things from a year ago, 5 years ago. They bring in things. Well, your mother was the same way, That's how she always was. Stay on topic. Get this specific conversation resolved before you start talking about your mother or Uncle Joe or something that happened when we were on our honeymoon 27 years ago. Okay. Avoid generalities such as you always or you never. Avoid the labels, right? And focus on how their actions made you feel. Okay, so use the I statements. I feel this way. And by doing that, you at least let them know that what they did hurt you. And now you've opened the door for them to say, oh, I don't want to hurt you and I can behave differently. They may decide to say, well, you know what? Your feelings don't matter to me and I'm going forward, but at least you've opened the door. All right. And then the last thing I'd say, and we got to wrap up here, is set boundaries. Establish, some clear boundaries if your spouse will not rein in their selfish behavior around what's acceptable and what the consequences are going to be if he or she does it again. Communicate the limits clearly and assertively. Express what you're willing to accept in a relationship and reinforce your needs without shutting your partner out. Okay. We always end the show, as you know, with a memorare to our Blessed Mother, because there's some marriage out there that's going to run right into a brick wall here tonight, and it's going to be a big Mount Vesuvius experience for some poor couple. So we want to provide some grace out there for whoever that couple's going to be, and we will let our Blessed Mother apply this grace to whichever couple needs it the most. So if you'll join me, please remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession was left unaided. Inspired with this confidence, we fly to thee, O Virgin of Virgins, our Mother. To thee do we come, before thee we stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not our petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer us. Amen. And you can find those solutions Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock Central Time, right here on Marriage Unhindered with your host, yours sincerely, Doug Hinderer. I will see you tomorrow night. This entire episode of Marriage Unhindered is on the updated Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers.